In eastern Ukraine, a Russian troop truck rolled along a quiet road near the front, somewhere across the tense sectors between Lyman and Zaporizhia. No armored column, no thunder of artillery, just one military vehicle moving through familiar ground, trying to reach the next position. But high above, a Ukrainian reconnaissance UAV had already marked it. Behind the line, FPV drones waited for orders, ground operators watched the live feed, and one ordinary truck was becoming a moving coordinate on a much larger battlefield map. That moving coordinate did not stay quiet for long. Within a few miles of the front line, the first FPV drone dropped low and came in fast, skimming toward the truck from a hard angle. But this was not the final blow. It was the trigger. A low-cost drone, worth only a few $100s to around $1,000, was enough to break the vehicle's rhythm, pressure the cabin, and force the soldiers inside to make a decision in seconds. Stay inside a damaged vehicle, or step out into open ground. And that was the trap. Above them, the reconnaissance UAV kept watching. Behind the screens, Ukrainian operators did not rush. They waited for the reaction. Because once the doors opened, one target became many. And before we break down how that single truck turned into multiple moving targets, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more battlefield analysis. And then the countdown began. At second 0, the truck was stopped. By second 10, doors opened and soldiers started moving in different directions. By second 20, the Ukrainian reconnaissance UAV shifted its focus away from the vehicle and onto the escape routes, the tree line, the dirt path, the nearest shelter, the shallow fighting positions, and the abandoned equipment nearby. Every movement became new data. One man ran toward cover. Another group split off along the road. A third movement appeared near a small structure. By second 40, a second FPV drone was already being redirected. By the first minute, bomber drones were watching fixed positions from above. This was no longer one strike on one truck. The battlefield had changed shape. One target had become several moving points, and each point gave Ukrainian operators another tactical choice. But the Russians were not standing still. As the moving points spread across the screen, the defensive response kicked in. A mobile electronic warfare team pushed closer to the road, trying to jam the FPV control links and break the video feed. For a few seconds, the clean image turned unstable. The signal shook. The picture broke into gray fragments. Some drones had to drop lower. Others had to change their angle of approach. On the ground, soldiers moved toward the tree line, small fighting positions, abandoned vehicles, and nearby buildings, using anything that could interrupt the view from above. Short-range air defense and rifle fire added another layer of danger. If the FPV lost contact now, the whole chain could break. But Ukraine did not depend on one drone. The reconnaissance UAV stayed higher, keeping the wider battlefield alive. That wider view changed the entire decision. Instead of chasing every movement through static, Ukraine shifted the focus to the system, keeping the group alive and organized. The target was no longer just a person running across open ground. It was the antenna tied to a tree line, the small supply point near the road, the abandoned vehicle that could still be reused, the shelter holding equipment, and the narrow entry point into a nearby fighting position. These were not dramatic targets like tanks or artillery pieces, but they were the operating ecosystem of the battlefield. A bomber drone could pressure fixed positions from above, while FPVs moved toward exposed vehicles, antennas, and shelter entrances. The reconnaissance UAV marked each soft target from higher altitude, and Ukrainian electronic warfare helped limit the enemy's drone response. Within a few hundred yards, Ukraine was no longer just pursuing movement. It was cutting away communication, cover, supplies, and visibility. With the soft targets now marked, the fight expanded beyond the road. As the light faded, Russian troops could have believed the darker terrain gave them a narrow window to move. But on this battlefield, darkness was no longer a shield. Thermal cameras could still read a warm engine, a recently used shelter, or movement across open ground. Above, the reconnaissance UAV kept the wide picture alive. Lower down, FPV drones waited for the exact moment to move. Bomber drones held pressure over fixed positions, while ground operators adjusted targets through radios and live screens. Around the control area, mobile teams watched for enemy drones, using drone detectors, light weapons, short-range air defense, and electronic warfare to protect the connection. By then, this was not a single FPV video anymore. It was a three-layer fight: eyes high in the sky, strike drones closer to the ground, and command teams controlling the tempo from below. Each layer had a role. Together, they tightened the entire area. From that three-layer pressure, Ukraine moved to the final lock. The last target was no longer the truck itself. It was the eye behind the truck. Near Zaporizhia, Ukrainian reconnaissance began searching for abnormal activity around Russian UAV crews, antennas, support vehicles, and small operating shelters. These teams were not just drone pilots, they were the local nervous system, watching the road, passing coordinates, guiding FPVs, warning ground units, and helping artillery adjust. Once that node was identified, FPVs moved toward exposed equipment and entry points, while bomber drones kept pressure on fixed positions from above. Electronic warfare teams monitored the reaction, and ground fire helped close off easy movement. In drone warfare, whoever loses vision first loses tempo first. Mission accomplished. By the end, Ukraine had not just stopped a truck, it had exposed a new kind of war. One vehicle became a moving coordinate. One survival reaction became a point of exposure. One quiet road became a zone of constant pressure. After the Russian UAV node lost its vision, the entire rhythm around it slowed. Communications, cover, supplies, and movement all came under strain. The battlefield went silent again on the screen, but the lesson stayed clear. In drone warfare, speed is no longer a shield, and darkness is no longer a safe hour.